I think we've heard some pretty incredible topics so far over the past couple days about customer success, and I want to deliver you today a slightly different take on how WeWork is approaching customer success. For us, we have built a customer success model around an internally developed and internally used tool. Because of that, we're not so concerned with a few of the major factors that have been discussed so far here this week. Those would be sales, marketing, revenue. None of those are in our sphere. This is a tool that all employees use to get their jobs done. It's a real estate pipeline portfolio management tool that I'm going to tell you about. And how I really want to frame this conversation is around the general quality of the tools that we're delivering rather than the regular customer lifecycle that we've looked at so far. If anybody is not familiar with WeWork, I hope to change that by the end of this conversation. WeWork is a platform for anybody who's looking to challenge the status quo of what your office space is. We provide an incredibly well-designed interior space, which is your office, and in addition, a really, really robust social media network of all of our 90,000 members. So if you're in London and you need a graphic design service, somebody from Sydney or somebody from LA might be able to fill that service for you. Inside of WeWork is my group. My group is the Physical Systems Group, and it is our mission to deliver success to our clients, who again are internal employees, when they maximize the actual value of Stargate, not perceived value, not just, I feel like this tool could do well, I feel like I could benefit from the use of this tool. Our goal is to directly impact their day-to-day and the things that they are doing, that they are required to do, and make it a little bit more delightful. We aim to provide a wonderful service and a wonderful tool to our clients in the same way that software as a service companies do through your external-facing teams. We've essentially taken a white glove level of service and provided it to employees rather than somebody outside. To set the stage for this, I'd like to tell you a story that's actually a true story from my childhood. It's about choices, or the lack thereof. So again, if we're talking about internal employees and the tools that they are required to use, you don't necessarily have a choice in what that tool is. If you're on an accounting team, you don't have a choice but to use SAP because that's what your company relies on, just for example, and how that shakes out. So imagine yourself back in elementary school. And it's that time of year, that time of your life, where everybody goes in and selects a musical instrument to play. Now, a rambunctious third grader, I was obviously dead set on playing the drums. Some sort of percussion was all I wanted to do. It could have been a xylophone, it could have been a tambourine, you could have given me a cowbell, and I would have been pretty satisfied. As long as I got to sit in the back, away from everybody, and bang on some noise, that would have been great. So I went into this meeting with my music teacher, and I sat down, and he said, "Grant, what do you want to play?" And I said, "I want to play the drums." And he said, "Yeah. Okay, so what I'm going to need you to do is play the clarinet." And I was like, no. I'm very sure that I want to play the drums. That's where my skill set is. That's where my heart lies. I'm bound to be a percussionist. And he said, "I know. But if we were to have everybody who wanted to be a percussionist actually be a percussionist, we would have a drum circle and not a band. This is in Venice Beach. I can't have a drum circle, so I need you to understand that there's a greater strategic context around the choice that I have made for you. Believe me, as a music teacher, that I know what I'm talking about when I'm asking you to play the clarinet, this tool that I'm giving you, instead of the tool that you wanted to use." Because he could provide me that very cool and calm strategic context and that understanding of how I could be successful contributing to the greater good instead of just individually, I was ultimately able to play an incredibly successful career as a clarinet player, went on to win a medal or two, and then kind of hung up that hat when sports became a thing. A few years later, I ultimately did go and pick up a drum set, and I bought a bright red Yamaha 5-piece drum set from Guitar Store, Guitar Warehouse. And to the disdain of my family, I played for an entire year, very, very poorly. because what I got was the tool that I wanted, and I got the manual that came with it, a book about how to play the drums and how to do this and how to do that, but found that my contributions weren't going as far because they weren't adding to a greater context, a greater mission. So it was just, I didn't have that same level of support from the music teacher to say, this is why you're doing this is the tool that I'm giving you, and if you run into problems, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be there for you. I'll be your coach, I'll be your mentor, I'll be ultimately your customer success manager. That led to a very, very successful career. So this kind of framework where you're not really given a choice, but there's still somebody there to say, I'm gonna have your back. I need you to do this because if we can be successful in this implementation, then the whole band will benefit. You can choose your own path. I'm not gonna say that that's always a great idea, but in the case of a drum set, it was sold for a 50% loss a year later, and I never touched it since. I mentioned that I was going to talk about an internal tool today. It's Stargate. I live my life inside of Stargate for the past 2 years. I know every single pixel of the program. And more than that, one of the main reasons why I'm successful as a customer success manager at WeWork with my employees, which we call clients, is that I understand at a very fundamental level why people are being asked to do the things that they do. If you're given one slice of a pie, but not told about the rest of the pie or the rest of the actions that are happening around you, you're much less likely to buy into this tool that I'm forcing you to use instead of another. As an example, task management is one of the things that Stargate does. You could use Airtable, you could use Trello, you could use Asana, all of those tools, and yet we are really, really forcing people to use Stargate instead. Why? Because the data that comes downstream from the task management module in Stargate is used to understand the progress of our teams towards the opening of a project. So it's that kind of providing someone with a strategic concept again. So we were facing these issues. We were facing low understanding of our customer satisfaction at the advent of this tool. We were facing really poor data quality. And we had very, very few people that would actually, behind closed doors, say, yes, I do believe in Stargate. Yes, I think it's great. I would definitely recommend that to a friend, the traditional model of CSAT or NPS. We believed that the root causes were because this was designed for 1 or 2 people to do a massive amount of data entry and not necessarily a large group of users to do like daily workflow type tools. Because of that and because of this system of record that we had, you would do your work in one place. Say you filled out a project schedule in Microsoft Project, and then ultimately copy that back into Stargate as a source of record keeping so that the rest of the company could understand. This is what it looks like today. It moves at the speed of light, or well, in terms of space-themed things, it moves at warp speed. It does portfolio management. It does 3D modeling. We have Revit integrations. It does staffing projections, financial projections, materials projections, a plethora of different functions. I mentioned before that this CS function that we have now, it really grew organically, and we didn't know that we were doing customer success until about 5 months ago. What we started doing was really, really closely aligned with what Claire was talking about yesterday. In our conversation around understanding the mental capacity, not the mental capacity, but the workload capacity of a single person, in the advent of this, we were a building intelligence group. And we stood on these 2 main pillars, which was understanding and implementation. So we would understand an issue that our clients were having. We would say, okay, this is the workflow, this is the tool, this is the current process, and we might revise that or change it. We would say, here is your new tool, go ahead, we built it for you, it's inside of Stargate, and here's a training manual, and there you go. And we would ship it. And time again, it would fail. Why? Like, why are these tools failing? We have a great dev team, we know what the problem is, we've effectively implemented them, we've removed the old tools, pushed in the new tools, and given you a training manual and a one-on-one session to figure out how to do it. But it wasn't enough. It was never, never, ever enough. And we were still facing those poor customer satisfaction statistics. So we went further, and we built on 2 additional pillars. coaching and support. This concept of coaching is the difference between a Marriott and a Ritz-Carlton, right? It's the level of white glove service in ensuring that the people not only have the training and materials that they need, but they also understand the greater strategic context, and you show them at an incredibly personal level that you care about their success. This coaching looks like somebody sending me a G-chat saying, I don't quite understand this feature. And at that point, I will say, well, here's the training documentation that we did on it, but let me come over. And I'll go and I'll sit down next to that person and say, hey, like, let's jam on this issue for a minute. Like, what is the problem that you're having? Okay, I see that. Thank you for that feedback. I'm going to bring that back to the development team. Also, I can see that Stargate isn't exactly matching the workflow that you're trying to accomplish. Let me build you a Tableau prototype that you can use in the interim until we can get this built for you. So you are providing them the training that they need, the strategic context that they are yearning for to understand why they're doing something that might not be the fastest, best way to do it. The other thing we did was bring support inside of the customer success framework. This is a pretty well-known paradigm today, right? If I can, as a customer success manager, be constantly monitoring my stream of tickets, we use user voice for this, then I'm more capable of seeing issues before they conflate or conflagrate, and kind of providing that holistic approach. This was how we unlocked the key, and this is my favorite diagram. It's the things that we do: probe, implement, coach, and support. The things that are, or who our users are, a main user, secondary, tertiary, and new. And this kind of breakdown was very, very special because it let us increase or decrease the level of granularity that we wanted to understand. You could understand each vertical as a department. So you could say the accounting department, the finance department, and the physical department. You could also say inside of the accounting department or inside of this department, I want to know about architecture, development, and project management. You could also say inside of one team, I want to understand my main user, my secondary user, and my tertiary user. So it was a wonderful, wonderful way for us to start looking at a high level how our customers were reacting to the tool that they were given. And the last is, we saw this from the CEO of JobVite, is that every time we're behaving, our users are giving us something in return. So if we are probing or understanding, they are sharing. I'm saying, like, what is this workflow? What is this process that you're going through? Tell me about it. Let me build that empathy that's so, so important to be able to deliver a high level of quality. When we don't do that, when we just stop at implementation, back in the building intelligence days, right? We would ship something, we would say, here's the training manual, and go. And yet, they would never become good promoters of the tool. They would never really understand why they were doing the things that they were doing. The main reason, we would just implement and let it go. This had some really, really staggering results year over year for Stargate. I had never seen 720% year over year growth. It was a wild ride. I mean, it's now, let's see, 600 unique users per month. That's over that's a third of the company every month. So we were really, really happy with this. During this time, interestingly enough, the CSAT scores jumped from 3.6 at the beginning of the year to 4.0. So not only did we increase our user base by, 720%, but we also increased the customer satisfaction score. So we believe that this level of white glove service actually does have a really, really good impact. A takeaway for anybody who is developing a tool, any tool. If you are part of a team that is building something right now, we want you to take away that the quality of the product is start to finish. It is a feedback loop from the customer success manager all the way back to the developer, all the way to the user. It is a holistic approach. And it starts with QA, preventative. Make a good product good before it's in the hands of your users. This is super, super important and should be pretty obvious. The second is integrate your support with your QA. So if we're looking at the quality umbrella, ensuring that we're delivering a good tool, that reactive support structure needs to understand not only the things that QA was facing and the customer is facing, but also downstream, understand the customer success portion of this, and that's the proactive part. In the model that we've developed, this proactive portion is that white glove service. It's sitting down and saying, going the extra mile, providing the strategic context, providing them some feedback and some really, really good tools that they might use in the interim. The second one is that for anybody who's ever, and this would be almost every single person in this room, experienced the implementation of an internal tool, you know that just the deployment date is not enough. You know that just the manual that comes with this is not enough to enable you to be successful in what you're being asked to do. So many times, internal systems are the most rough cut and the most complicated. They're the most cumbersome and the most difficult. And yet, we staff a set of employees that we believe are superstars. And in the back of your mind, you're like, I don't need to hire an internal customer success manager because I can rely on the customer success managers of the companies that I'm leveraging the tools from. I can have SAP send someone to my office to do these trainings. The problem is that even some of the best customer success managers out there won't necessarily understand the great strategic context that an internal employee would have. So to implement it and just ship it is not enough. You need to go beyond that and provide people this level of care and nurture that would actually bring them to the next level. And ultimately, if you do, you'll turn that deployment into a wonderful musical symphony. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Grant. So. Yeah.